Alright, so we got a 2009 Jeep Wrangler JKU, and it's been giving us a bit of a shuddering issue. So when driving it down the road, sometimes it feels like as if you're driving on the rumble strip that's on the sides of the highway. Now, what causes this? Well, there's a theory that it could be the torque converter kind of slipping as it goes into the overdrive gear. So the clutch inside of there, some solenoid is just not really locking up properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get that shuddering noise on film and see if we can't fix it with instant shutter fix. Now this is a friction modifier that goes into the transmission fluid, and supposedly this could stop the torque converter from making that shuddering. So let's see what it looks like before and then after.
Oh. That was it right there. That was exactly what it was. What speed were you at?
Between probably 37 to 40.
So, yeah, so between 35 and 40 miles an hour. Alright, so this is the instant shutter fix stuff. You basically cut the top end off of this and you squeeze it down the dipstick tube that goes into the transmission. Okay, so we're reading a little high, but we're going to just put the shutter fix in anyway. Squeeze it into the dipstick tube. Alright, so going slow.
Well, the speed here is only 30, so.
Yeah, everyone usually does 40 on this road anyway.
It's a suggestion.
Start slowly going up to 40. Let me know when you hit 40. So around this speed is when it usually does it.
There's a need to be worked in, so
Well.
you get once to get the stuff in.
Well, we won't know right away. The claim instant shutter fix, you know, obviously is not going to be truly instant.
But at least having to be worked in makes sense.
Yep. So, I mean, it's got to make its way through the entire system to modify the fluid. Alright, so it's been a few weeks since we put the anti-shutter in, and it's been about 400 miles of driving. Now, suffice it to say that the instant part of the shutter fix wasn't instant. In fact, we were kind of let down initially because it didn't seem to have actually fixed anything. We drove it around for about a week or so after that, and it wasn't until, I'd say about, well, what would you wager? How many miles do you say it would be till it really started kicking in?
Probably 80, 90 miles.
80, 90 miles. We'll call it about 100 miles. So it took a while to work its way into the system to adjust or modify the friction of the fluid inside of the torque converter. Now this Jeep has got a pretty big torque converter as well as all the other transmission fluid that's got to be ran through. We even have an aftermarket transmission cooler So there's extra radiator space as well as more line.
About an extra 2 quarts.
So it took a little longer to get everything working, but as of right now, about 400 miles and a month later, the shuddering for the most part does seem to have gone away mostly. There's probably still a little bit of shudder in there once in a while, not nearly as violent. I'd say about like 10% of what it used to be. So we're going to actually talk to the guy who drives this thing and get his opinion on a before and after. So this is Mike. This is his Jeep. Say hi, Mike.
What's going on?
So why don't you tell us what it was like before we put the anti-shudder in the Jeep?
It was violently shuddering. You could feel it in the steering, the gas pedal. It wasn't very fun to drive around normal city speeds.
All right, so obviously we have the part in the film where we put the anti-shudder in the system. Now, why don't you tell us what it was like right after, following up to the point where it started to actually do something. So there was a gap. It wasn't instant, even though it's supposed to be instant shudder fix. So walk me through that.
Because this thing takes probably about 16 quarts of transmission fluid, it took a while for it to get actually incorporated into the fluid, I'm thinking. So it took a while driving to actually get it to start working. Like over time, like the shuddering was getting a little bit less and less while everything worked in, and now I feel it probably once in a while now.
Okay, so what would you rate it like before? If before it was like a 10, like bad shudder, what is it now?
Probably a 2.
Okay.
I'm actually thinking about buying another thing to see if I can get rid of it completely now.
All right, well, we'll discuss that at a later point. So it should be noted that anti-shudder is not a permanent fix. In fact, you should not expect it to be a permanent fix. It's something that realistically is only going to work for maybe about a year before most people find that it stops doing what it does. Now, that being said, if anti-shudder does in fact fix your problem, you might need to do another transmission fluid change, and that might actually just straight up fix the problem. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will, but people online have noted that usually this is an indication that it could be fixed by flushing the system out and putting new fluid in. But
Also,
again,
the torque converter or something else could be going completely wrong with your transmission.
yeah, there's a lot of variables when it comes to an automatic transmission, especially on one of these Jeeps with a high and low range gear. Point is, it's a good temporary fix, and it's an indication that you probably should get it looked at before things get more catastrophic. So we're not transmission specialists, we're just people trying out different fixes for the various problems that our vehicles have. So hopefully you found this video informative. If you did, leave us a like, and if you like what we do, consider subscribing.